The champagne flute slipped from my fingers and shattered against the kitchen tile, sending crystal shards across the floor like tiny daggers. "Oh my," Vivian said, not moving to help as I crouched down to collect the pieces. "Pregnancy makes us all so clumsy, doesn't it? Though I suppose there's plenty of time to admit things before the baby comes. My name is Iris, and I should have known right then that my baby shower was going to be a disaster." "What do you mean by that?" I asked, still on my hands and knees, blood beading where a shard had nicked my palm. Vivian smoothed her perfectly styled silver hair and adjusted the pearl necklace that probably cost more than my car. "Oh, nothing specific, dear. Just that pregnancy has a way of bringing out the truth in people. Eventually." The way she said eventually made my skin crawl. I stood up, cradling the broken glass in my cupped hands, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not sure what you're implying." "I'm not implying anything." She smiled that cold smile I'd grown to hate over the past 4 years of marriage to her son. "I'm simply saying that secrets have a way of coming out, especially when there's a baby involved. People talk, you know. They wonder about timing, about circumstances." Before I could respond, Solstice burst through the kitchen door carrying an armload of pink and gold balloons. "Iris, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for—" She stopped short, taking in the scene. The broken glass in my hands, Vivian's satisfied smirk, my pale face. "What's going on?" "Just a little accident," Vivian said sweetly. "Iris was telling me how excited she is for everyone to finally meet the father today." The words hit me like a slap. Solstice's eyes widened, and I saw her jaw clench. She'd been my best friend since college, and she knew exactly what Vivian was doing. "Well," Solstice said, her voice dangerously calm, "I'm sure everyone's excited to celebrate Iris and Braxton's miracle baby. After everything they've been through." Vivian's smile faltered for just a second. "Of course, though miracles do come in many forms, don't they?" I dumped the glass shards into the trash with more force than necessary. "Where's Braxton?" "Setting up the gift table with his father," Vivian replied. "Such a devoted husband, always so eager to please." She paused, letting that sink in. "I do hope he's prepared for today. Sometimes these family gatherings can be revealing." Solstice stepped closer to me, her presence a shield against Vivian's poison. "The guests are starting to arrive. Maybe we should focus on celebrating instead of whatever this is." "This is just a mother-in-law getting to know her daughter-in-law better," Vivian said, but her eyes were ice cold. "After all, we're going to be family for a very long time. Aren't we, Iris?" The question hung in the air like a threat. I wanted to scream, to tell her exactly what I thought of her passive-aggressive games, and her precious son who never stood up to her. Instead, I forced a smile. "Of course we are. Wonderful." Vivian clapped her hands together. "Now, I should go check on the decorations. I want everything to be perfect for today's revelations." She glided out of the kitchen, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and malice. Solstice immediately grabbed my shoulders. "What the hell was that about?" I shook my head, not trusting my voice. Through the kitchen window, I could see guests arriving on the lawn. My sister Sydney was directing people toward the gift table, her dark hair catching the sunlight. Jorge was setting up his camera equipment, probably getting ready to capture what Vivian clearly hoped would be my humiliation. "Iris, talk to me." "She knows," I whispered. "Knows what?" I looked at my best friend, this woman who'd held my hand through every doctor's appointment, every negative pregnancy test, every crushing disappointment. She'd been there when the fertility specialist delivered the news that changed everything. She'd watched me make the hardest decision of my life. She knows about Braxton. Solstice's face went white. How could she possibly? I don't know, but she does. I pressed my hand to my swollen belly, feeling the baby kick as if sensing my distress. And she's planning something. Through the kitchen door, I could hear Vivian's laugh ringing out across the yard, bright and sharp as the broken glass I'd just thrown away. "Smile, everyone. This is going to be such a beautiful memory." Jorge's camera clicked rapidly as I forced my face into what I hoped looked like joy. Vivian had positioned herself right next to me on the white wicker love seat, her arm draped possessively around my shoulders like we were the best of friends. "Isn't she just glowing?" Vivian announced to the crowd of 30-something women scattered across the backyard. 7 months along and absolutely radiant, though I do think she's carrying rather high, don't you, Margaret? Margaret, one of Vivian's country club friends, tilted her head like she was examining a painting. Oh yes, definitely high. My grandmother always said that meant... It means nothing, Solstice interrupted, appearing at my elbow with a plate of mini quiches. Old wives' tales are just that. Tales? Vivian's laugh tinkled like wind chimes. Of course, dear. Though sometimes the old wives knew more than we give them credit for. I caught Sydney's eye across the yard. She was standing near the beverage table, her arms crossed, watching Vivian with the same expression she'd worn when we were kids, and someone was picking on me at school. Ready to fight. Where's Braxton? Asked my cousin Emma, looking around. I haven't seen him since we got here. Oh, he's around somewhere. Vivian waved dismissively. You know how men are at these things. Probably hiding in the garage with Robert, talking about sports or cars or whatever it is they discuss when they want to avoid baby talk. Actually, Eloise said quietly from her spot on the porch steps, he's been in the kitchen for the past 20 minutes, just standing there. All eyes turned to Braxton's younger sister. She looked uncomfortable, picking at the hem of her sundress. Unlike her mother, Eloise had always been kind to me, though she rarely spoke up when Vivian was holding court. Standing there doing what? Solstice asked. Eloise shrugged. Just staring out the window. Dad tried to talk to him, but he just kept saying he needed a minute. Pre-daddy jitters, Vivian said with another laugh, but I caught the sharp look she shot toward the house. Perfectly normal, though some men handle the pressure better than others. What pressure? Emma asked. It's a baby shower, not a board meeting. Oh, you know. Vivian's voice took on that syrupy tone that made my teeth ache. The pressure of expectations, of living up to certain standards, of proving yourself worthy of the family name. Margaret nodded sagely. My Harold was the same way, worried he wouldn't measure up as a father. Course, that was back when men actually worried about such things. Times have certainly changed, Vivian agreed. These days it seems like anyone can become a father, regardless. The conversation felt like walking through a minefield. Every word Vivian spoke seemed loaded with hidden meaning, and I could see some of the guests starting to pick up on the tension. I think I'll go check on him, I said, starting to stand. Oh no, sweetie, you stay put. Vivian pressed me back down with surprising strength. This is your day. Let the men sort themselves out. Besides, we haven't even gotten to the games yet. Games? I asked weakly. I've prepared something special, Vivian's eyes glittered. A little guessing game about the baby. When it was conceived, what it might look like, who it might take after. You know, the usual fun. Solstice stepped closer. Maybe we should just stick to opening presents. Nonsense! Games make everything more memorable. Vivian clapped her hands. Jorge, make sure you get pictures of everything. I want to capture every moment of this special day. Jorge nodded, but I noticed he kept glancing toward the house, probably wondering where the father-to-be had disappeared to. Eloise, dear. Vivian called to her daughter. Why don't you go get your brother? Tell him it's time to join the celebration. After all, this is his big day too. Eloise hesitated. Mum, maybe we should just go get him. Vivian's voice carried a steel edge that made everyone fall silent. Eloise stood up reluctantly and headed toward the house. As she passed my chair, she leaned down and whispered, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? I asked, but she was already walking away. Now then, Vivian turned back to the group with renewed energy. While we're waiting for the guest of honour, why don't we start with a little game I like to call Guess the Truth? Everyone gets to share what they think they know about our little miracle baby here. The blood drained from my face. Sydney started moving toward us, her expression murderous, but Vivian was already pulling out a stack of index cards. I've prepared some questions that I think will be absolutely fascinating to explore. Actually, let's skip the games and move straight to toasts. Robert's voice cut through the tension as he emerged from the house, Braxton trailing behind him like a scolded child. Vivian's smile tightened. But Robert, I had such fun activities planned. Toasts, he repeated firmly, giving his wife a look I'd never seen before. That's what people do at celebrations. They toast the happy couple. Braxton finally made eye contact with me, and I could see the panic written all over his face. His hands were shaking as he grabbed a beer from the cooler. Of course, Vivienne recovered quickly, tucking her index cards into her purse. How thoughtful of you, dear, though I do think my games would have been more illuminating. Eloise appeared with a tray of champagne glasses, distributing them to the guests. When she got to me, she hesitated. Just sparkling cider for the mama-to-be, she said softly, handing me a glass filled with golden liquid. How considerate, Vivienne said, accepting her champagne. Though I suppose we should all be careful about what we're drinking today. Wouldn't want anyone to say something they might regret. The threat was barely veiled. I watched as guests began to shift uncomfortably, sensing the undercurrents they couldn't quite identify. I'll go first, Sydney announced, raising her glass. She'd positioned herself directly across from Vivienne, and her voice carried across the yard. To my sister Iris, who's the strongest woman I know. She's been through hell and back to get this baby, and anyone who tries to diminish that can go straight to... Sydney, I warned. Can go straight to the store and buy some class, she finished, never taking her eyes off Vivienne. A few people chuckled nervously. Vivienne's smile never wavered. How sweet, she said. Family loyalty is so important, isn't it? Though sometimes loyalty can blind us to certain realities. What realities? Solstice stepped forward, her voice sharp. Oh, nothing specific. Vivienne waved her hand airily. Just that sometimes the people we love most are the ones keeping the biggest secrets from us. The yard fell silent, except for the sound of ice clinking in glasses. Jorge had stopped taking pictures and was watching the scene unfold with obvious concern. Mum, Eloise said quietly, maybe we should just... I'd like to make a toast, Vivienne announced, rising to her feet with theatrical flair. If I may. No one answered, but she continued anyway, raising her champagne glass high. To my daughter-in-law Iris, she began, her voice carrying that false sweetness that made my skin crawl. Who has brought such excitement to our family? Such mystery, such intrigue? Braxton was staring at the ground, his knuckles white around his beer bottle. When Braxton first brought Iris home, Vivienne continued, I knew she was special, different, the kind of woman who would do absolutely anything to get what she wanted. Vivienne, Robert warned, but she ignored him. And look how it's all worked out. After years of trying, suddenly, miraculously, a baby, just when it seemed like it might never happen. She paused, letting her words sink in. It's amazing what modern medicine can accomplish these days, isn't it? My heart was pounding so hard, I was sure everyone could hear it. Of course. Vivienne's voice grew louder, more confident. We're all just so eager to finally meet the father. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Several guests gasped. Margaret's champagne glass slipped from her fingers. Emma's mouth fell open. I looked at Braxton, waiting for him to say something, anything, to defend me, to defend us, to tell his mother to stop. Instead, he looked down at his shoes and said nothing. The silence stretched on, broken only by the sound of someone's phone buzzing and a dog barking in the distance. Every eye in the yard was on me, waiting for my response. Vivienne, Robert said again, his voice harder now. That's enough? Is it? She asked innocently. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Aren't you all curious about the timing? About how suddenly everything worked out after years of difficulties? She was looking directly at me now, her eyes glittering with malicious satisfaction. Some truths, she said, taking a sip of her champagne, just won't stay hidden forever. That's when I stood up, my chair scraping against the patio stones, and walked toward the house, not to run away, not to hide, to get my laptop. Iris, Solstice called after me. Where are you going? I didn't answer. I had something to show them, something that would wipe that smug smile off Vivienne's face forever. Behind me, I heard her laugh, bright and victorious. Don't worry, everyone. I'm sure she just needs a moment to collect herself. My hands trembled as I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter. The screen flickered to life, And there it was. The folder I'd labelled medical records. The folder Braxton had begged me to delete a dozen times. Iris, what are you doing? I spun around to find Eloise standing in the doorway, her face pale. Getting the truth, I said, clicking through the files. Please don't. She stepped closer, wringing her hands. Whatever Mum said out there, she didn't mean it. She gets carried away sometimes. Carried away? I laughed, but there was no humour in it. She just accused me of cheating on your brother in front of 30 people. She didn't say that exactly. She said everyone was eager to meet the father. What do you think that means, Eloise? Eloise's eyes filled with tears. I know what it means, but if you do this, if you show them, it'll destroy him. And what about me? I asked, finding the file I needed. What about what this is doing to me? Through the kitchen window, I could see the guests huddled in small groups, whispering. Vivian was holding court near the gift table, probably spinning her web of implications even tighter. He loves you, Eloise said desperately. Braxton really loves you. He's weak when it comes to Mum. He always has been. Then maybe it's time he learned to be strong. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and Braxton appeared, his face flushed and panicked. Iris, please come back outside. Everyone's asking questions and Mum's getting more worked up and... He stopped when he saw the laptop. What are you doing? What I should have done years ago. No. He rushed forward, reaching for the computer. You can't. We agreed. You agreed, I snapped, pulling the laptop away from him. I went along with it because I thought you'd eventually find your backbone. I was wrong. Iris, please. His voice cracked. If you show them that document, everyone will know. Everyone will know I can't. That I'm not what, Braxton? Not man enough? Not fertile enough? Not brave enough to stand up to your mother? Eloise gasped. Oh God, it's true, isn't it? The rumours about you two having problems. Mum wasn't just being cruel. She actually knows. Braxton's face crumpled. How could she know? We never told anyone except who? I demanded. The insurance company, he whispered. For the fertility treatments. But that's confidential, they can't... Margaret works for the insurance company, Eloise said quietly. She processes claims. Mom and Margaret have been friends for 20 years. The pieces clicked into place. Margaret's knowing looks, Vivian's confidence, the way she'd been building up to this moment all afternoon. She's known all along, I said. She's known about your infertility, about the donor, about everything. And she's been waiting for the perfect moment to humiliate me. Iris, I'm sorry. Braxton reached for me again. I'm so sorry. I should have defended you out there. I should have told her to stop, but you didn't. I closed the laptop and tucked it under my arm. You never do. Where are you going? Eloise asked. Back outside, to finish what your mother started? Iris, wait. Braxton grabbed my wrist. If you do this, there's no going back. Everyone will know. My co-workers, my friends, everyone in town. They'll all know I couldn't get my own wife pregnant. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the man I'd fallen in love with, but a scared little boy who'd never learned to stand up for himself or anyone else. And what about me, Braxton? What about the fact that everyone out there thinks I cheated on you? What about my reputation? My dignity? That's different. How is it different? He opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to find an answer. Exactly. I pulled free from his grip. It's different because I'm not your mother's son. I'm just the woman who had the audacity to marry into her perfect family. I walked toward the door, but Eloise stepped in front of me. Please, she said. There has to be another way. Can't you just ignore her? Let it blow over? Let it blow over? I stared at her in disbelief. Your mother just publicly questioned my fidelity at my own baby shower, in front of my family, my friends, my co-workers, and you want me to let it blow over? She'll deny it tomorrow. Say she was misunderstood. The damage is already done, Eloise. The only question now is whether I'm going to let her get away with it. I pushed past her and headed for the back door, my laptop clutched against my chest like armour. Behind me, I heard Braxton whisper, God help us all. The conversations died the moment I stepped back onto the patio, laptop in hand. 30 pairs of eyes tracked my movement as I walked across the yard, my heels clicking against the stone path. "There she is!" Vivian called out cheerfully, as if nothing had happened. "We were just wondering if you were feeling all right, dear. Pregnancy can be so overwhelming." "I'm fine," I said, setting my laptop down on the gift table next to the projector Jorge had set up for the slideshow of baby photos we'd planned. "What's that for?" Margaret asked, eyeing the computer nervously. "Just something I wanted to share with everyone," I replied, opening the laptop and connecting the HDMI cable. Vivian's smile faltered slightly. "Oh, how lovely. More baby pictures. Though I thought Jorge was handling the photography today." "Not pictures," I said, powering up the projector. "Documents." The word hung in the air like a thunderclap. Several guests exchanged worried glances. Sydney moved closer, positioning herself where she could see both me and Vivian. "Documents?" Robert asked, his voice tight. "What kind of documents?" "The kind that tell the truth," I said, navigating to the folder on my desktop. "Iris." Braxton appeared beside me, his face ashen. "Please, think about what you're doing." "I have thought about it." I looked up at him, then at the crowd of people watching us. "For 3 years, I've thought about it. Every time your mother made a snide comment, every time she questioned my worthiness, every time she implied I wasn't good enough for this family." "That's not—" Vivian started. "Every time," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "She made me feel like I had to prove myself, like I had to earn my place, like I was some kind of fraud." "Honey, you're being dramatic," Vivian said, but her voice had lost its confident edge. "I never said any of those things." "You didn't have to say them. You implied them. You whispered them. You made sure everyone around you understood exactly what you thought of me." Solstice stepped forward. "Iris, whatever you're about to do, I'm with you." "So am I," Sydney added, crossing her arms and glaring at Vivian. "This is ridiculous." Vivian laughed, but it sounded forced. "All this drama over a simple toast. I was just being playful." "Playful?" Emma spoke up from the back of the crowd. "You basically accused her of cheating." "I did no such thing." "You said we were all eager to meet the father," Margaret said quietly. "What else could that mean?" Vivian's face flushed red. I meant we were excited about the baby, about meeting the baby. You're all twisting my words." "Are we?" I asked, my finger hovering over the mouse. The projector hummed to life, casting a bright white rectangle on the portable screen Jorge had set up. "Iris, don't," Braxton pleaded. "Please, we can work this out privately. We don't need to air our business in front of everyone." "Your mother didn't seem to think privacy was important when she was airing her suspicions in front of everyone." "I wasn't airing anything," Vivian snapped, her composure finally cracking. "I was making conversation." "Conversation?" Solstice laughed harshly. "You were being cruel." "I was being honest. Someone needs to ask the hard questions around here." The crowd stirred uneasily. Jorge had stopped taking pictures and was watching the scene unfold with obvious discomfort. "What hard questions?" Robert demanded, turning to face his wife. "What are you talking about, Vivian?" "Oh, don't act like you don't know," she shot back. "Don't act like you haven't wondered about the timing, about how convenient it all was." "Convenient?" I asked. "Years of trying, years of disappointment, and then suddenly, miraculously, you're pregnant, right when it looked like Braxton might never give us grandchildren?" The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. Several guests gasped. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. "Mum, stop," Eloise said, tears streaming down her face. "Please just stop." "Stop what? Stop asking questions. Stop wanting to protect my son." "Protect him from what?" Sydney stepped forward, her voice dangerous. "From his wife? From the mother of his child?" "From making a fool of himself," Vivian exploded. "From being taken advantage of by someone who would do anything to get what she wanted." The silence that followed was deafening. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. I looked around at the faces staring back at me. Some shocked, some sympathetic, some hungry for drama. Then I looked at Braxton, who was standing there like a statue, saying nothing, doing nothing, protecting nothing. "You want the truth?" I asked. my voice carrying across the yard. You want to know about timing and convenience and miracles? I clicked the mouse, and the first document appeared on the screen. Vivian's mouth fell open when she saw the doctor's signature at the bottom. The medical report filled the screen in stark black and white. At the top, in bold letters, Male Fertility Assessment, Braxton Gibson. Below that, a series of clinical terms and numbers that painted a devastating picture. Sperm count, less than 1 million per milliliter. Normal range, 15-200 million. Motility, 5%. Normal range, 40% or higher. Morphology, 2% normal forms. Normal range, 4% or higher. At the bottom, in Dr. Harrison's unmistakable handwriting, patient presents with severe oligoasthenoteratozoospermia. Natural conception probability, less than 1%. Recommend immediate consultation for donor insemination or adoption. The silence was absolute. You could have heard a pin drop on the grass. "Oh my God," Margaret whispered, her hand covering her mouth. "Is that—" Emma started, then stopped. "That's a fertility report," Jorge said quietly, lowering his camera. "Braxton's fertility report." All eyes turned to Braxton, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. His face had gone completely white, and his hands were shaking so badly he had to set down his beer. "Braxton?" Robert's voice was barely audible. "Son?" "I can explain," Braxton stammered. "It doesn't mean—" "It means," I said, my voice cutting through his stammering, "that your son is infertile. Severely infertile. Has been for years." Vivian was staring at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. This can't be right. There must be some mistake." "No mistake," I said, clicking to the next page. 3 different tests, same results every time. The second document showed the same devastating numbers, dated 6 months after the first. Then a third, dated a year later. "But the baby—" Vivian's voice was barely a whisper now. "If Braxton can't, then how—" "Donor insemination," Solstice said clearly. "It's a common procedure for couples dealing with male infertility." "Donor?" Margaret's voice cracked. "You mean—" "I mean," I said, looking directly at Vivian, "that you've spent the last hour questioning the paternity of a baby that was conceived through a medical procedure, a baby that your son desperately wanted, a baby that we went through hell to conceive." Vivian's face cycled through a dozen emotions: shock, confusion, embarrassment, and finally, desperate anger. "You're lying," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "This is fake. You made this up to embarrass me." "Mom," Eloise said softly, "look at the doctor's signature. Look at the letterhead. This is real." "It's not real." Vivian's voice rose to a shriek. "She's trying to make me look bad. She's trying to turn everyone against me." "You did that yourself," Sydney said coldly. "I was protecting my family." Vivian spun around, addressing the crowd. "I was asking legitimate questions. Any mother would do the same." "Any mother would support her son," Robert said quietly. "Any mother would trust her daughter-in-law." "Trust her?" Vivian laughed hysterically. "She's been lying to us for months, pretending it was natural, pretending it was a miracle." "We never pretended anything," I said. "We just didn't think our private medical information was anyone else's business." "Private? You made it public the moment you got pregnant. You made it everyone's business." "No," Jorge said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "You made it everyone's business. About 5 minutes ago." He held up his phone, and I could see he'd been recording. On the small screen, Vivian's voice played back clearly. "We're all just so eager to finally meet the father." "You recorded that?" Vivian's face went pale. "I record everything at events," Jorge said. "It's my job, and that—" He gestured to his phone. "That sounded like an accusation to me." "Play it again," Emma said. Jorge rewound the recording. Vivian's voice filled the yard again, dripping with false sweetness and barely concealed malice. "Of course, we're all just so eager to finally meet the father." The implication was unmistakable. Several guests shook their heads in disgust. "I didn't mean—" Vivian started. "Yes, you did," I said. "You meant exactly what everyone heard. You wanted to humiliate me. You wanted to plant seeds of doubt about my fidelity. You wanted to make me look like a cheater and a liar. That's not the only liar here, I continued, is you. You've been lying about supporting this pregnancy. You've been lying about accepting me into this family. You've been lying about being happy for us. Vivian looked around desperately, searching for allies, but found only shocked faces and disappointed stares. I was protecting my son, she said weakly. From what? Robert asked. From happiness? From having the family he always wanted? From being made a fool of. The only fool here, Solstice said, is the woman who just destroyed her relationship with her son and daughter-in-law in front of 30 witnesses. Turn it off, Braxton said suddenly, his voice hoarse. Please, just turn it off. I looked at him. This man I'd married, this man who'd let his mother humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. Turn it off? The projector, the documents, all of it. Please. Now you want me to stop? I laughed, but there was no humour in it. Where was this concern when your mother was implying I was a cheater? I'm sorry, he said, and tears were streaming down his face now. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have defended you. But you didn't. I know. I was scared. I was embarrassed. You were a coward, Sydney said bluntly. Several guests started gathering their purses and gifts, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding before them. But just as many stayed, transfixed by the spectacle. Don't you dare call my son a coward, Vivian snapped, finding her voice again. He's been through enough. This whole situation has been traumatic for him. Traumatic for him? I stared at her in disbelief. What about traumatic for me? What about the woman who's been enduring your passive-aggressive comments for 4 years? What about the woman who just got accused of adultery at her own baby shower? I never said adultery. You didn't have to, Emma called out from the crowd. We all heard what you meant. That's right, Margaret said quietly. Vivian, what you said was cruel. There's no other way to interpret it. Vivian whirled on her friend. This is your fault. You told me about the insurance claims, about the fertility treatments. I never told you to use that information to hurt anyone, Margaret shot back. I mentioned it in confidence, and you twisted it into something ugly. Ladies, Robert said, stepping between them. This has gone far enough. Has it? Eloise stood up from where she'd been sitting, her face streaked with tears. Has it really gone far enough, Dad? Because I don't think it has. Everyone turned to look at Braxton's sister. She was shaking, but her voice was steady. I'm tired of pretending, she said. I'm tired of walking on eggshells around Mom. I'm tired of watching her tear people down and then acting like she's the victim. Eloise, Vivian warned. No, Mum, I'm done. Do you know what you've done today? Do you have any idea? I was protecting... You were being cruel. Eloise's voice cracked. You humiliated Iris in front of everyone. You embarrassed Braxton. You made our entire family look toxic and dysfunctional. We are not dysfunctional. Look around. Eloise gestured to the chaos surrounding them. Half the guests have left. The other half are recording this on their phones. Jorge's got everything on camera. By tomorrow, everyone in town will know what happened here. That's not my fault. It's entirely your fault. Eloise was crying now, but she kept talking. You couldn't just be happy for them. You couldn't just accept that they found a way to have the baby they wanted. You had to make it about you. You had to be the centre of attention. I am the grandmother. You're a bully. The words exploded out of Eloise. You've always been a bully. You bullied Dad into submission years ago. You tried to bully Braxton into breaking up with Iris, and when that didn't work, you decided to bully Iris instead. Robert was staring at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. Eloise. It's true, Dad, and you know it. You've watched her do this for years. We all have. And we've all been too scared to call her out on it. I have never bullied anyone, Vivian said, but her voice was shaking now. Really? Eloise pulled out her phone. Because I've got about 50 text messages from you over the past month, all questioning whether Iris was really pregnant, whether the timing was suspicious, whether we should look into things before the baby came. Those were private conversations. Just like Iris and Braxton's medical information was supposed to be private. The crowd murmured agreement. Vivian looked around desperately, but found no support. I think, I said quietly, closing my laptop. That I've said everything I needed to say. I tucked the computer under my arm and started walking toward the house. Solstice and Sydney immediately flanked me. "Where are you going?" Braxton called after me. "Home," I said without turning around. "This is your home." I stopped and looked back at him. "No, Braxton. This was never my home. Your mother made sure of that. Iris, please, we can work this out. We can fix this. Can we? Are you going to stand up to her? Are you going to tell her that what she did today was unforgivable? Are you going to choose your wife and child over your mother's approval?" He opened his mouth, then closed it, unable to answer. That's what I thought. I walked into the house, leaving behind the wreckage of what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Behind me, I could hear Vivienne's voice, high and desperate. "This is all her fault. She's the one who ruined everything." But no one was listening to her anymore. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m, 3 weeks after the baby shower from hell. I was staying at Sydney's apartment, and she answered it before I could even get out of bed. "Absolutely not," I heard her say through the thin walls. "She doesn't want to see you." "Please, Sydney, just 5 minutes." Braxton's voice was hoarse, desperate. I pulled on my robe and waddled to the living room, my belly now so large I could barely see my feet. "It's okay," I told Sydney, who was blocking the doorway like a bouncer. "Let him in." He looked terrible, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, wearing the same clothes he'd had on at the shower. In his hands, he clutched a manila envelope. "You look awful," I said, settling into Sydney's oversized armchair. "I feel awful." He sat down across from me, the envelope balanced on his knees. "Iris, I need to tell you something. About what happened after you left." "I don't really care what happened after I left." "Eloise moved out." That got my attention. "What?" "She packed her bags that night and went to stay with our cousin in Portland. She told Mom she was done enabling her behaviour. Used that exact word. Enabling." Sydney poured herself coffee and leaned against the kitchen counter, clearly planning to stay for this conversation. "And?" I prompted. "And Dad asked Mum to leave too." I blinked. "Robert kicked Vivienne out?" "Temporarily. He said he needed space to think about their marriage, about whether he wanted to spend the rest of his life married to someone who could be so cruel to family." "Where is she staying?" "Margaret's. Except Margaret's not really speaking to her either after what happened. Turns out half the country club saw Jorge's video." "Jorge posted the video?" Braxton shook his head. "Emma did. She posted it on Facebook with a caption about standing up to bullies. It got shared about 200 times before Vivienne made her take it down." Sydney snorted. "Too late by then, I bet." "Way too late. Mum's been asked to step down from the charity board. The garden club uninvited her from their annual luncheon. Even her book club is giving her the cold shoulder." "Good," I said flatly. Braxton looked up at me, surprised by my lack of sympathy. "Iris, she's my mother. She's suffering. She's experiencing consequences. There's a difference." He was quiet for a long moment, turning the envelope over in his hands. "You're right. That's what Dr. Martinez said too." "Who's Dr. Martinez?" "My therapist. I started seeing her the day after the shower." He looked up at me. "I know it's too little, too late, but I'm trying to understand why I let this happen, why I never stood up for you." "And what did she tell you?" "That I've been so afraid of losing my mother's approval that I was willing to sacrifice my wife's dignity to keep it. That I'm a people pleaser who's never learned to set boundaries. That I've been emotionally abusive through my inaction." The words hung in the air between us. Sydney raised her eyebrows but said nothing. "She also said," Braxton continued, "that if I wanted any chance of saving my marriage, I needed to make a choice. Really make it, not just say it." "What choice?" He held up the envelope. "I wrote Mum a letter, told her exactly what I thought about what she did to you. Told her that her behaviour was unacceptable and that if she ever wanted a relationship with me or our child, she needed to get serious help. Professional help. And I told her that if she couldn't do that, if she couldn't genuinely change, then she wouldn't be part of our lives. No visits, no phone calls, no relationship with her grandchild." I stared at him. "You gave your mother an ultimatum." "I chose my family, my real family, you and the baby." He leaned forward. Iris, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I failed you in the worst possible way. But I'm asking, begging, for a chance to prove that I can be the husband you deserve. Sydney cleared her throat. What did Vivian say when she got the letter? She called me crying, saying I was being manipulated by Iris, that I was choosing an outsider over my own blood. Braxton's jaw tightened. So I hung up on her, and I haven't answered her calls since. That must have been hard, I said quietly. It was the easiest thing I've ever done, because for the first time in my life, I knew I was doing the right thing. The baby kicked hard against my ribs, as if responding to the tension in the room. I rubbed my belly absently. Iris, Braxton said, I'm not asking you to forgive me right away. I'm not asking you to come home today. I'm just asking for a chance to earn back your trust, to prove that I can be the partner you need. I looked at this man I'd married, this man who'd finally found his spine at 34 years old. Too late to save our marriage, maybe, but not too late to save our family. We'll start with counselling, I said finally, together. And you keep seeing Dr. Martinez. Hope flickered in his eyes. Does that mean? It means we'll see. One day at a time. Sydney smiled and poured another cup of coffee. Well, this is more interesting than my usual Tuesday morning. Braxton laughed. Actually laughed for the first time in weeks. Thank you, Iris. I won't let you down again. You better not, I said, but I was almost smiling too. Because next time, I won't just embarrass your mother at a party. I'll divorce you and take half of everything. Deal, he said immediately. Outside, I could hear the neighbourhood coming to life. Kids walking to school, dogs barking, normal people living normal lives. Maybe we could have that too, eventually. Maybe we could build something real from the ashes of what Vivian had tried to destroy. The baby kicked again, and I pressed Braxton's hand to my belly so he could feel it too. Our child, I said firmly, will never doubt that both parents are fighting for them. Never, he agreed, and for the first time in months I believed him.